I mentioned the Magomed Ankalaev win. That fight was a few years ago. But what do you remember about that fight? And did you know it would be so monumental for you going forward, considering that he hasn't lost since then?
Yeah, I remember that fight. Like it's one of the you come to a fork in the road. This was one of these fork in the roads for me. I had went to the UFC very early, far too early than I should have. Had my first fight, had won via submission, second round. Had been beat in Vegas in 209, and then got beat in Glasgow on my hometown with a knockout. I then had an opportunity to fight on the London card, and the UFC was like, "Would love to fight this Russian guy." And it was very hard to find information on him because he's Russian, the shows, the promotions he was on, managed to find a few bits and bobs. And he was very well rounded then. He had the skills and his stand up and his striking. I remember standing backstage just as they're doing like the little VT that tells you all about this. Paul Craig, he's 6 feet 3 inches tall, he stands, he does this. So it was giving you all my rap sheet. And then it gave you his, and it was like, he's a master of Sambo. And then they were like touting him to be like the light heavyweight Khabib. And I remember looking at my coach thinking, what have we got ourselves into here? And he just says, listen, go out there and just do what you can do. And there was this clash, and I ended up breaking my ribs. I ended up putting a hole in my chin. I remember doing a spinning back fist, falling, like I caught him with a back fist, missed the cage, fell on my backside, and him just smothered me. There was all these kind of times where he smothered me. There was another point where he picked me up very effortlessly, picked me up, slammed me. But the thing I think that's going to live on for the rest of my life is going to be that last second submission where he's just cruising. He's up 3 rounds. If that last round had went to the judges, he's up there 3 rounds. He's done huge damage to me. I managed to take him down, managed to show some good elements in my game, but it's that last second that results in him tapping. And people are like, why did he tap? Like I would have just let myself pass out. And the reason he tapped is because I put so much energy and so much power into my legs to finish that submission that there was no chance that I was given that opportunity away by seconds, and I willed everything in my body to submit him. And as soon as your body's in danger, the body has to like protect itself, and that was in the version of the tap. I remember Mark Goddard slapped me in the forehead to release my triangle, and I could hear like John Gooden and um, Dan Hardy just losing their shit behind me. And as I stand up, my teammates jump the cage, he's on my back. It's just this overwhelming feeling because that crossroads led me to get a new contract. And the UFC had sent that contract over before even Monday afternoon had closed. I received that contract. If I had lost that fight, I wouldn't have been a UFC fighter. I'd have been coming home from London to Glasgow, back to Paul Craig, the teacher, back to Paul Craig, the guy who's no longer an MMA fighter. Because at that point, if I'd not received a new contract with the UFC, I'd achieved my goal to get into the UFC and being a UFC fighter. I would have walked away from the sport there and then. What happened was this crossroad took me to the new contract, took me to Australia, took me to fighting in Brazil, took me to all these places in the world to get victories over top level opponents, resulting in me sitting here right this minute telling you this story. Because as I said, if that fight had went the way and I had lost it, went to the judges, lost all 3 rounds, then I'd have walked away from the sport. It's such a hard sport emotionally with regards to the highs are high and the lows are low. And it doesn't matter what people tell you, like, oh, it's all right, you've just lost that fight, just pick yourself back up. It's not as simple as that. It's you put so much emotion into that whole camp. There's so many things that happen in these camps that you can't experience proper things with families, like Christmas dinner, like eating healthy during Christmas dinner. Not that I wouldn't eat healthy anyway, but not having the same things my family's having a pre-made meal that I've made 2 days before and putting in the microwave, but still sitting there. My family's having champagne and wine. I'm sitting there on water. And it's the same for New Year, bringing in the bells, a massive thing in Scotland to bring in the New Year with friends and family. And I'm in their house, and everybody around about me is absolutely mashed on alcohol, and I'm sitting there as a designated driver, and it's like 3 in the morning, and I'm having to drive everybody home. So much sacrifices leads into a camp, that the emotion is so high and so low. I'm looking forward to going to Brazil and releasing this emotion.